HBCU and You, and I am stepping in today for Mike Bledsoe as a guest host, and I'm Edith Belazaire, and today we have with us Keisha Kelley. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so at the bottom. So I'm going to jump right into it, talk a little bit about Keisha Kelley. She is a native of Alabama, my hometown state. And also a fellow graduate of the Southern University. So, me being the guest, I had to call the one and only Keisha Kelley because everybody on campus knew Keisha Kelley. Very popular with the heels, doing her thing. And so I wanted to bring her, not just because of that, but also because of the Black college experience. And if you haven't heard about it, go to the comments below. All her social media links are there. Please follow and share her information. She is really out here promoting Black athletes at the HBCUs and making sure people know that we have the talent just as well as those other schools. And so we want to make sure that those athletes know that, hey, you can come here to HBCU and be competitive. And we hope that you choose Southern University. But if not, definitely look at those other ones. So before I get into the questions, I want you to know that Keisha is a 2003 SU graduate. And in 2019, she was just named the 40 under 40 at Southern University. So, and she is a sideline reporter. So if you go onto any of those HBCU games, I'm sure you have seen her. And again, she's the owner of the Black College Experience. So I'm going to let Keisha take over and just tell us a little bit about herself before we dive into our HBCU questions and have a little reminiscent of our digest days in the late hours eating Domino's pizza.
Woo, them days. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for so many gracious and kind words. I always tell people I'm so humbled when people talk about me and what I do for Black College Experience. Of course, that is my business. Black College Experience actually started in about 2016. And then we actually moved and shifted some things and became an official business in 2018. So we've been rolling and going since about 2016, but officially 2018. And it started as just like a segment. Only thing I was talking about was swag sports. I talked about swag sports for about 15 minutes. And then after that, I kind of rolled it over. And somebody said, why don't you do a 2-hour show? And I was like, hey, listen, I can't keep nobody's attention for 2 hours. It's hard to keep somebody's attention for 1 hour. So I did. I kind of went with, okay, I might can give you an hour, but I can't give you 2. Went with that 1 hour, had to come up with a name. Right in the middle of us coming up with the name and getting that set up, it was May of 2016. And right on the back end of May, my father was sick. And in June, my father transitioned. So probably 2 weeks after we started, my father transitioned. So I had to take time off. And literally we went into SWAC Media Day in May of 2016. And I have not stopped going since May of 2016. We've been running ever since.
And I follow Keisha, so I know she is out there. She's at the game. She has her, her media criteria. So she is really in the mix of it. And when she says she supports these schools and is out there and making sure the world knows about our athletes, it is a true thing. So do make sure that you go and follow her. So Keisha, this is my question because I've never asked you this.
Okay.
So being from Alabama, I'm from Selma and you're from Huntsville. And, I know Alabama people, they all about Alabama State, okay, the A&M. So how did you get past the Alabama A&M, the Alabama State, the Tuskegee? I mean, even the Miles and Stillman. I mean, we have so many HBCUs in Alabama that people may not even realize and know about, even the Stillmans, okay? And you have a twin that went to Alabama A&M. So how is it that this happened, that you came to the Southern University?
So it's so funny. I tell people all the time, I'm Alabama A&M raised. I'm Southern University made. It's a true story because I grew up on the campus of Alabama A&M. And honestly, my twin sister's choice was to go to Southern. My sister wanted to go to Southern. I wanted to go to FAMU. I was like, I'm going to FAMU. We took a band trip and we went to FAMU and I saw them hills. I was like, you know what, bro? I ain't walking them hills. I ain't doing that. It was just too much. It was too much for me. So I was like, okay, well, fine. I just picked. And I really didn't have too many things I had thought about. And I actually had looked at Jackson State. I looked at Grambling. I looked at all these places. And so my sister had said Southern. I was like, oh, okay, let me see. I'll consider Southern too. And so once she had put Southern out there, I started looking at Southern too. Well, my sister became pregnant at the time, so she wasn't leaving. So I'm like, well, shoot, okay, I'll look at Southern. And Southern was the first school that responded back. I was like, I'm going to Southern. And it's crazy because that's the same thing that happened to my nephew when he went to school. The first school that responded, he was like, that's where I'm going. And that's exactly how it is. When Southern responded, I was like, I'm going to Southern. That's where we going.
I mean, I knew I had never asked, and I was always
Yep.
curious about that. So,
Yep.
what was your major at Southern?
I was a psychology major.
Okay. Now, I know I didn't go to Southern right away after college. I went to Xavier and then came to Southern in 2000, but you started in 1999
Mm-hmm.
through 2003. I mean, and I just remember that campus was just, it was just an experience. I mean, people were everywhere, and I know it is not as crowded as it used to be. I
Right.
mean, it was when I hear the We Are One, that's where it takes me. Okay, it takes
Yeah.
me to the art and that experience of being there with people that looks like you and professors that look like you, and it's like you would never really get that when you enter the work world. So,
Correct.
tell us about some of the activities and organizations that you were part of, because I just remember you being a part of everything. But please let us know some of the extra things that you did, and also some of the things you did within your major.
So I was always a part of SGA. No matter where it was going through SGA. I was a part of AWS. I was a part of the Black History Club. I was the vice president for the Black History Club. Don't ask me why they did that, because we used to just do the most. But I was like, we don't do the most, and we absolutely did the most. I did some mentoring, so I was one of those people. I've always been active. I've always been a person that felt like I had to do something, and that was the thing. I always wanted to be in the forefront, and I still even remember running for Miss Freshman. I didn't win, but I was really bold. And I was like, I'm gonna run for this, and I was bold, and I stepped out there. Only before I knew we had to do the swimsuits. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like 18, 19, I'm 18 years old, and I got to be up here in front of these people I don't know, this whole campus. Yeah, that was a bit much, but that was one of the things I was like, oh my God, because in my high school, I was the queen, the homecoming queen, I was the president, I did all this stuff. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to college, okay, with 10,000 people. And so yeah, that was just one of the things. But I appreciated all of those things, all of those long nights of campaigning, helping on people's campaigns. Those were the good old days.
So, when you think back, what experience or even activity, because Southern had the Pretty Wednesdays, we
Listen,
had the probates, people would go in the library on the fourth floor so they could see, or they would stand outside. I mean, it was just so many things. Like, what do you put above and say, like, this was like my number one thing, or something I look forward to when I think about my days at Southern?
listen, 99's homecoming, when Cash Money really took over, it has to be it. Nobody is topping that 99 Cash Money taking over homecoming concert. And back then it was just show your ID and move on.
That's it.
So it's like we really getting this top talent. We getting like celebrities on campus. And I'm like, oh, and all I gotta do is show my ID. That homecoming concert did it. That sealed the deal for me. That very first concert. I mean, I saw a lot of stuff in Southern, but that was it. That homecoming concert took over 99. That was my favorite memory.
So I'm gonna ask you this, Keisha, and I know we didn't talk about this earlier, but did you go out to any of the parties? Were you in the Perfect 10
Absolutely.
productions?
Absolutely. So Perfect 10 was on the back end. In the beginning was what, the VFW and Club Upscale. We did it. The Catholic Center. Oh yeah, we did all of that stuff. We did, and I was like, I'm so ashamed to know that we party in a Catholic center and act like we had no common sense up there, acting like we was crazy. But it was like, all right. And even now, when I see people talking about the Catholic center, I'm like, oh y'all just don't know. Y'all party in the Catholic center. That's the same thing we did 20 years ago.
Okay. And you know what? When you talk about some of the artists, I remember our spring fest, like we had some good times over there. They, with the crawfish and all that, but we had top talent coming to those too.
We did. And I'm like, how are y'all booking? I still remember Ice-T. I'm like, how are y'all
Yes,
booking these people?
yes, that
Like,
is the
how are
one
y'all
that
doing this?
that's the spring fest that I really remember. I was like, IFC is here. I mean, and it was people everywhere, and we were having a good time.
I don't
You know,
think we realized how much of a gym we had back then. Like we really had it good. We had
and,
it good.
and when I sit back and think, I'm like, man, we are just all together having a good time,
Yeah.
enjoying each other. I mean, you can't experience that for me anywhere else. And I have attended, I got my graduate degree at LSU, and I've attended their events, but it is nothing, and no shade to LSU, but it is nothing like being at Southern University with
Yep.
people that look like you. We're having
Mhm.
a good time. And then you have artists and celebrities that are coming back, not even talking about the speaker series that we had where people came back and talked to us. I remember Spike Lee coming.
See, and I mean, it was just, I was just like, I still remember the homecoming concert where Ricky Smiley was the host. I
Yes.
remember, I remember, and I was just like, we had so many good times. We didn't even realize the caliber of people that we were getting to come on campus. I was like, who booked this? Like, these people, and when you look at it, you like, oh, these people knew some people. They knew
Yeah.
some people.
I mean, even down to graduation speakers. I mean, we had some great people.
Absolutely.
So to go back to like now that you're older or somebody you may reach out to, who was that professor? Or you went in different organizations, so it could have been an advisor that was like that person that you say, you know what, you really kind of changed my thinking or affected or contributed to not just who you are today, but change you as a person to, because at that point we're growing, right?
Right.
We're there at 18, some 17, starting there, and you're becoming an adult. So who would you would think would be that person? At,
So Dr. Rackley was definitely my person that was in the psychology department. Dr. Rackley was always one of those people. He always called you sister or brother. That's all he was, sister or brother. So he was like one of those pro-black, no matter what. And so he was always sister, my brother. He was always one of those people. But the other person would definitely have been Dr. Tosin. Dr.
okay.
Tosin was one of those
Oh,
uh-oh, I thought I lost you.
there you go.
And so
Yeah.
it was. And so Dr. Tosin was the other person. So between Dr. Rackley and Dr. Tosin, those were the two people that we felt we could always go to talk to about something, especially Dr. Rackley, because he was the younger person. You can go in his office and tell him everything, and he would have the solution and everything as to what you would do. But if you wanted an old spirit and you wanted an old person's opinion, Dr. Tosin definitely had that answer.
Okay. And I'm gonna ask this question because I heard Mike Bledsoe ask a few of his other past people he interviewed. What building did you hang out at the most, Keisha?
I'm just gonna be shamed. Probably the union. The union would probably be if it wasn't the union, you know what? It might have been TT Lane. It might have been TT Lane. Between the union and TT Lane. I did a lot. I spent a lot of time in TT Lane, mainly because I didn't have a computer. So between the library trying to get the computers, TT Lane and the union. But TT Lane was because we already knew everybody was gonna be in TT Lane for something. Everybody was gonna be there for something. So I did spend a lot of time there. Not always in class, but I spent a lot of time at TT Lane.
We may have to do a little poll for Southern because a lot of people from Southern have said TTLA. It's right there.
TTLA was like the one-stop spot.
Yes, they had the little food in there, and then it was
Yep.
at the end of that strip,
Yep.
so you got to
Yep.
turn out, and so we got
Everybody busting the corner on the way out.
so if I didn't catch you in the front, you're gonna ride around that back.
You
So
go
we
right
gonna
around the back. You are.
see. So before we wrap it up, I want to know how would you encourage somebody? Because I know you get questions on a daily because you wear your HBCU shirts a lot. And I know people come and talk to you, and you're very active in the alumni chapter there in Atlanta. But what would you tell a student that's thinking? I think a HBCU should be on every child's list that's a color to definitely think about it or at least visit. But what would you say to a student that's thinking about not only going to Southern, but just any HBCU?
So I tell them all the time, it's the same message. Why not HBCU? It's our time. If we don't tell our story, then who's gonna tell it? And if we don't tell it now, then when are we gonna tell it? So it's no better place for you to be. And it's like you said, it should always be on your list. We're not saying you gotta go, but you should at least consider. You should at least consider because the same 3 credit hours at Southern University is the same 3 credit hours at LSU, Alabama. Tennessee State. It's the same 3 credit hours. So always consider, at least put it on the list. Put them on the list and look at, because I mean they might offer your major. It's a competitive environment, and it's a diverse environment. I think that's the misconception. People think it's not diverse, and they think that it's just all people of color, and that's just not the case. So that's what I always tell them. If not now, then when? Always consider us.
Exactly. I say if you think that it's just people of color, you should ride around Southern. Go by that law school, okay?
Exactly. Ding, ding,
Ride
ding,
by
ding, ding,
that
ding.
nursing
We'll see a
building,
whole lot
okay?
of not us.
Yes, ride by that nursing building, okay?
Exactly.
You'll see that there are a lot of different
Come on there
people.
after 5 o'clock. After
Yes,
5 o'clock for that master's program, you'll see them after hours. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
lot of different people. So knowing that you're the sports guru, I want these people to know that Southern University does create Hall of Famers.
We create them,
So
y'all.
I want you to tell us a Hall of Famer from the football program and the baseball program, because we have them. So I
Okay.
just want you to let the people know.
So she told me to name one. So I'm gonna name three. Name three. I'm gonna do what she told me to do. And of course, I got pictures on the wall, but we always go with Aeneas Williams. That's always our first. Aeneas Williams is always that first person. Mel Blunt is always my second person because I'm really good friends with his son. And then Harold Carmichael would be our third person, which actually just went into the Hall of Fame back here in 2020. So he was the last one inducted. And then switch it over to baseball. Lou Brock that just passed last year. So, we got them. I don't want y'all to think that we be slipping. We got them. We got them, and we got them they're doing well.
Yes.
They've done well.
Now I know that, especially on Roughing in the Swag, there has been a lot of comments. Okay, there has been so many comments about NFL players coming to HBCUs, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's definitely showing light. Deion Sanders, and I know you were there at his press conference when he came out that he was the head coach, that he's raising so much money and awareness. And with the ESPN coverage that we have been getting, because I have been watching all the games that have been on ESPN, I think it's a great thing. And I see a lot of controversy with people feeling like, well, there's so many other coaches that have been waiting for that opportunity. And now we have an Eddie George with Tennessee State University. Do you feel like this is going to be the trend for other HBCUs to feel that they have to compete in order to get that recognition and to get those players? Do you see more NFL players coming back? And if so, like who do you think will be the next NFL player to step up and say, hey, I'm going to go coach at an HBCU?
So I'll start by this. If you look at, so we had Stump Mitchell, which was supposed to be some celebrity coach. Coach Barlow was in the NFL. So it's been coaches around the horn that have actually played in the NFL prior to this. And I'm one of those people. I always like to give the coaches a chance. They was like, you just too soft. And I'm like, whatever. I want to get a coach a chance, whatever. And then you prove me wrong. You prove me wrong. But on the flip side, I am also for, there have been people waiting on this opportunity. At least give those people that have been waiting a chance. People that actually have the experience. What happens is when you bring the big name coaches in, what they bring is resources. And that's what you want. You want the resources because they have the partnerships, the sponsorships that are attached, but they have a big name. And so with the big name comes all of the fanfare, all of the camera, all of that stuff. And the one thing that we never want to lose focus of is the student athlete. You don't want to lose focus of what's important, and that's the student athlete. So if you can find a way to separate the big name coach and remember that it's still about the student athlete and it's not about your fanfare or whatever you're doing, then I'm all for it. But if it becomes about you and not about the student athlete, then no, I can't. No.
Okay. So who do you think would be next, though? Do you think
So,
there's more to come?
there is more to come. We should know within the next week of how much more to come and who's going to be. They were actually, I was actually listening or trying to find out if they had named an interim coach. So as of now, I haven't saw anything, heard anything. But 24 hours from now, we probably know something. So it's like I said, it's just been a buzz. It's just been since that happened, everything's just kind of going, and it was a shock. It really was a shock to a lot of people.
Yeah, Odom leaving was definitely a shock to me. I was really surprised. He has such a great season, and he's been doing well these last few years. So, but we'll follow him in Norfolk. I know you will, and I'll be
Absolutely.
seeing the updates. But I want to thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you.
here with your HBC and you. And it just reminded me of our digest days, hitting the grind.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so I am looking forward to seeing so much more from the Black College Experience. And if you, again, look at the links below and you'll see her social media or you'll see her on the sideline near you. So thank you so much, Keisha. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am.